న్యాయశాస్త్రం చదవడం ఒక ఎత్తు అయితే దాన్ని ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తూ అంతమంది హేమీలు ఉన్న చోట సక్సెస్ అవ్వడం మరొక ఎత్తు. యుఎస్లో పాతూరి లా అనే ఒక ఫర్మ్ని స్థాపించి దాంతో వర్కౌట్ చేస్తున్నారు. అదేవిధంగా మా ఇమ్మిగ్రేషన్ లాలో మంచి రికార్డు ఉన్న సంస్థ పాతూరి లా. సో యుఎస్లో ఎటువంటి అవకాశాలు ఉన్నాయి, అదేవిధంగా ఇక్కడ నుంచి యుఎస్కి వెళ్తున్న స్టూడెంట్స్ ఎలాంటి జాగ్రత్తలు తీసుకోవాలి, అదేవిధంగా ఇక్కడ నుంచి అమ్మాయిల్ని పెళ్లి చేసుకుని అక్కడికి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత వాళ్ళు ఎలా ఉన్నా ఇబ్బంది పడితే ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళాలి, ఇటువంటి అన్ని అంశాల గురించి ఒక్కసారి మాట్లాడే ప్రయత్నం చేద్దాం. మనతో పాటు ఉన్నారు మధురిమ బోయపాటి పాతూరి, తనతో మాట్లాడదాం. వెల్కమ్ టు సాక్షి అండి.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. వెల్కమ్.
యా, అండ్ సో ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ మీరు పాతూరి లాతో పాటుగా శక్తి అనే ఒక ఆర్గనైజేషన్, నాన్ ప్రాఫిట్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ కూడా రన్ చేస్తున్నారని విన్నాం. సో ఫస్ట్ పాతూరి లాతో స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం. అండ్ ఇమిగ్రేషన్ మెయిన్ ప్రాబ్లం. ఇక్కడ నుంచి చాలామంది స్టూడెంట్స్ యుఎస్ లాంటి కంట్రీస్లో చదువుకోవాలి అని ఇంట్రెస్ట్ చూపిస్తారు, అక్కడికి వస్తారు, కానీ ఆ ప్రాసెస్ అనేది ఇబ్బంది పెడుతున్నారు చాలామంది. సో ఏం చెప్తారు స్టూడెంట్స్కి?
I mean that everybody has a dreams that they want to have the higher studies and a good career, which is a great thing, right? You know, that's where the nation will develop, and they have that dream to come to the United States is most of the students think, you know. I mean that they all have admission. Obviously, they go through the whole process of going to the consulate, getting the visa and get there, you know. So that's very common. Maintaining the student visa is where usually we see a lot of issues happens once you get into America. How to maintain the I-20 is a document which every student has to have to study in America. So to maintain the I-20, you have to attend certain classes, you know. Sometimes there's a possibility that people do skip the classes. If you don't maintain certain credits, which is certain classes, then you lose your I-20 status. When you lose your I-20 status, even though you're in America, you really don't have any status. So it is so important that you need to take a certain classes, certain credits every semester to maintain that I-20. If not, you're going to be fallen out of the status. Or example, you don't have a work permit in the first semester when you come as a student visa, then eventually you get it in the second semester, depend upon either the master's is 1 year or the second 2 years. Most of the STEM courses you have a work permit up to 3 years, you know. So it is very important to finish the enough credits to get to the work permit, you know. So some of the trouble we recently see, as you probably see in my profile, I also represent American Telugu Association as a legal chair. So as a community leader, I try to represent most of those kind of the sectors when it comes to students. A lot of them get screened at the airport, you know, if they're returning back as a students. A lot of the issues we see is they get investigated in the airport or screened through it. The reason, one of the main reason or the biggest reason is they're working unauthorizedly or illegally or something like that. So that's one of the thing I always tell to the community at large, that make sure that don't work if you don't have an authorization, because it affects a lot in the future. You lose your student visa, which eventually you can't change the status to the H-1B and your whole future will go. That is one of the important thing we need to notice.
Okay. Yeah. అండ్ చాలా మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ చదువుకోవడానికి వస్తారు, అయితే ఈవెన్చువల్లీ అక్కడ సెటిల్ కావాలనుకుంటారు. సో దాని సక్సెస్ రేట్ ఎంతవరకు ఉంటుంది?
I mean that most of them will graduate, obviously, you know. Settling is the second point from the student visa. I mean that the goal of the student visa for anybody, it should be is studies, right? You need to have more interest in learning what you want to do it, you know. So the second step is career. That there is a little, I mean that obviously a lot of people knows about the H-1B process. So most of the time there is a capacity for every year. There is 85,000 visas, 65,000 is for the general cap, which means that everybody who done the bachelor's or equivalent degrees with a specialty occupation. Of course there is a requirements and regulations for everything what I'm talking about, specialty occupation, bachelor's degree and all those things. Bachelor's degree is equivalent to the US bachelor's degree, not here like a 3 years degree. So those are the basic requirements for anybody to get there. Obviously people who came on the master's, they already have a bachelor's degree which they are qualified for the H-1B, and there is a 20,000 extra quota for the people who did the master's in the United States. Okay. So the total is 85,000. So every year in March, and they have the we call as lottery system because they usually receive more than the 85,000 applications. Like this year, they received 600,000 applications, which is 6 lakh applications for 85,000 applications. So obviously, there is 1:1, almost like a 10% of the people got picked out of it. So that's why we called it as a lottery, because computer will pick randomly out of the applications what they receive, and that. Once they get picked in the lottery, they will start working in the October 1st, which is a fiscal year in America. So this is the second step of any student. Most of the students' goal is once they go for the studies, they want to stay in America longer term. So H1B is the next step. And like I was telling you, this year we had H1B process from March 1st through the first 3 weeks of the March. And by the end of the March, we know that who got selected. Only 10% of the people who applied got selected. Most of them are the master's degrees who did actually in the United States. So that means that even though you have an ambition to get on the H1B and work visa and all those things, you may not have a luck to do it, So at that time, they have to look at the other options, what they can do it, or can they change the status to the other thing, or they can further study like maybe PhD or something else, even though they come for the master's. So it's even though you want to work, there may not be options. Sometimes it's all based on the luck. So that's the next step.
And నాట్ ఓన్లీ ఇండియన్స్ కానీ ఇంకా మిగతా కంట్రీస్ నుంచి కూడా చాలా మంది వస్తూ ఉంటారు, చైనీస్, కొరియన్స్, జాపనీస్, వీళ్ళంతా. సో మన కంఫర్ట్ జోన్ ఎంతవరకు ఉంటుందంటే ఏం చెప్తారు మీరు?
So see, H1B is not meant any for a country cap. Anybody can apply for the H1B. The requirements, as I said, is a US equivalent bachelor's degree and specialty occupation. So the thing is, out of 85,000, 90% was used by the Indians. వాళ్ళు చేయకూడదు అనేం లేదు. If they qualified, they can file it, and computer will pick randomly, But because based on the demand what we have for the computers and everything, like especially after we got all the computer jobs and everything, most of them are engineering graduates, which we are providing from India, and it is a specialty occupation which you can't find too much in America. Okay. So Indians, automatically there were more offers for them. That's why there's a lot of people are sponsoring them. So you feel like a lot of Indians are using. It doesn't mean that other countries can't apply for that.
Okay. Yeah. And మీ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ ఒకటి ఉంది, శక్తి. సో ఎట్లా వర్క్ చేస్తుంది? అండ్ ఈ డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ కేసెస్ దగ్గరకు వచ్చేసరికి పేరెంట్స్ ఇక్కడ నుంచి పెళ్లి చేసి పంపిస్తున్నారు, కానీ వాళ్ళు ఎలా ఉన్నారు ఏంటి అనేది వరీ అవుతూ ఉంటారు. అండ్ అక్కడికి వెళ్ళాక వాళ్ళు లోన్లీనెస్ ఒక మెయిన్ ఫ్యాక్టర్, ఎవరిని అప్రోచ్ అవ్వాలో తెలియదు వాళ్ళకి. సో మీ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ అటువంటి వాళ్ళకి ఎలా హెల్ప్ చేస్తుంది?
Okay, I founded Shakti about 6 years ago. That is one of my biggest passion that I want to give back to the community, and I chose particularly domestic violence. The reason is culturally we have so many variations different when you come to the in the United States a lot. And me being a practice as an immigration lawyer, a lot of people reached out to me because domestic violence, even though it's happening in the house, the biggest reason people don't want to take a next action is because they think that they lose their status. Especially a lot of them are the spouses are on the H1B, and the other spouse usually come on the H4. So as a dependent, you don't have a work permit. Financial independence is one of the biggest and the strongest for anybody, specifically to the woman, right? It brings you confidentiality. So not having the work permit and not having that confidentiality sometimes feel like, even though something is happening in the house, they feel like it's chalta, we'll just adjust, right? We'll keep going, because you can't say to anybody, you don't have a parents, you don't have a family, you don't have a support group, and you don't have the community most of the time who listens to you, what you're going through. Or maybe if somebody is listening also, they may judge you, right? Oh, it's exactly, like, just go adjust, don't worry about it. This is a common in the marriage relationship. This is something, a repetition happens in the community. So this is something I always heard in my law firm, with somebody reach out to me, hey, what happens to my status if I get the divorce, or if I go out of the relationship, or I have the kids, what is the protection of the kids, and something like that. So I always thought that why don't we start the organization where it is really needed, and then I looked around and see that I live in a Florida state. I looked into, is there any similar organization which is helping this kind of the community for the Indians and South Asians specifically? There's nothing like that. Then I feel like, who else is the right person to start it? As an attorney, or the person who knows about the culture, let me start this. That's how I started the Shakti.
And ఈ డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ కేసెస్కి వచ్చేసరికి లా ఎట్లా ఉంటుంది అండ్ స్ట్రిక్ట్గా ఉంటుందా? అండ్ ఇక్కడ ఇండియాలో చూసుకుంటే కనుక చాలామంది భయపడతారు, అండ్ ప్రొసీజర్ కూడా కొంత లాంగ్గా ఉంటుంది. సో అక్కడ ఎలా ఉంటుంది?
సో ప్రొసీజర్ అక్కడ కూడా రాంగ్ గానే ఉండొచ్చు. ఇట్స్ డిపెండ్, ఎవ్రీ స్టేట్ ఈస్ డిఫరెంట్. ఆబ్వియస్లీ ఇక్కడ కూడా ఎవ్రీ స్టేట్ ఈస్ డిఫరెంట్, యూనో. బట్ వెన్ ఇట్ కమ్స్ టు సేఫ్టీ ఇష్యూస్, ద యాక్షన్ ఈస్ ఇమ్మీడియట్, రైట్? యూనో, ఐమ్ షూర్ ఇట్ హ్యాపన్స్ ఇన్ ఇండియా too. I don't know exactly the procedure, but a lot of like especially physical abuse, right? You know, so obviously abuse in a different forms: physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, and all those things, you know. So a lot of states in America, they also recognize the verbal abuse and also the mental abuse, you know, not just like beating and hitting and doing all these things, which is, I think it's very, very important. Nowadays, it's not always physical, right? You know,
exactly.
It's a lot of verbal, actually, you know. Stalking and all those things become very such a common thing, you know. Those things are also taken as seriously, and the safety is the most important, and 911 is a common number we call for the safety, you know. So if there is a really a physical abuse and there is something, a safety issue, the restraining order happens right away on the spot, you know. So they were taken separately and put it on their safe place. Usually most of the time is the abuser is taken away from the household, and the spouse stays with the kids at the safest place in the house, even though either she has independence, financial independence or no, it doesn't matter. She get to stay at home, you know, so which is very important, and she need to be provided with a financial independence. And most of the time in the restraining order, the abuser stays away for a few months during the whole process of the court system, you know, which could take few months or year or so, you know. Okay. And depend upon if it is a mutual thing, or obviously when the kids are involved, it takes longer because who gets what rights and all those things, you know. It's not about the length of the procedure, it's about the action taken right away for the separation, and the safety issue is very important. That is very effective in America.
ఓకే. అండ్ ఇక్కడ నుంచి స్టూడెంట్స్గా వచ్చేవాళ్ళు కానీ, లేదంటే డిపెండెంట్ వీసా పైన వచ్చేవాళ్ళు కానీ ఎలాంటి సజెషన్స్ ఇస్తారు మీరు? అక్కడ చట్టాల పరంగా ఎలాంటి ప్రికాషన్స్ తీసుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంటుంది?
Always be prepared, right? You know, regardless of it, either it is America or different country, you know, you need to be prepared. What is your like, you know, what can you do there, you know, what is your scope there, kind of your visa scope I'm talking about as immigration. We're always a foreigners, you didn't born in that country. When you go to different country, you have to make sure that what can or you can do it as per the law, you know. Immigration comes the topmost in any country, obviously. US is one of the top country. We take it very seriously, the immigration laws, you know. Obviously if you come on the H1B visa, you can't go there and open up your business or do other things, you know. You came here for a job offer, do the job, right? If you came as a studies, you do the students, you know. So same thing with the dependents, you know. Dependents ki usual ga work permit undadu, you know. They come as a dependents, that means that they have a status legally, but they can't do a lot of things, you know, like work permit, or they can't work, they can't do a lot of like a business and other things and everything. But if the spouse has a green card process going, then they will get the work permit and other things. So ఏ స్టేటస్ కైనా కూడా యూ నీడ్ టు నో నువ్వు ఎంతవరకు చేయాలి, ఆ వీసాతో ఏం చేయాలి అంతనే నేర్చు చేస్తే, సో ఏమవుతుందంటే, సో దట్ యూ డోంట్ గెట్ ఇన్ ట్రబుల్ డౌన్ ద రోడ్, యు నో. సో ఇప్పుడు స్టూడెంట్ వీసాస్ ఎవరైనా ఇల్లీగల్గా పనిచేస్తారంటే, ఎయిర్పోర్ట్లో ఆపేస్తారంటే, దెన్ దే హ్యావ్ టు లీవ్ ద కంట్రీ. దట్ వాలంటీర్ డిపార్చర్, దట్స్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ దట్. నాట్ ఓన్లీ యు ఆర్ డిపార్టింగ్ రైట్ అవే, బట్ యూ క్యాన్ కమ్ రెస్ట్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ లైఫ్ టు ద అమెరికా, ఆర్ దే మే హ్యావ్ a 3-year bars or 10-year bar. To overcome that bars, then you have to show that why you need to come back to the America. So దానికి స్ట్రాంగ్ రీజన్ ఉండాలి, ఒక యుఎస్ సిటిజన్ కిడ్ అని.
అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఇన్ కేస్ ఏదైనా క్రైమ్లో ఇన్వాల్వ్ అయ్యి ఉంటే జనరల్లీ అక్కడ నుంచి పారిపోయి ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేస్తారు చాలా మంది. సో ఏం సజెస్ట్ చేస్తారు? కంప్లీట్గా అక్కడ ఉండి ఫేస్ చేసి క్లియర్ చేసుకుని రావాలా?
See, it's all depend, you know. I don't want to comment on వాళ్ళు క్లియర్ చేసుకుంటారా లేదా అనేది. That's their individuality. I have no right to comment on that, you know. But what happens is, when you are in the land of the America, you need to respect the law of the laws, right?
Exactly,
you know,
that's true.
And while you are there, they will take whatever the sentences they have to do it, or the fine, or whatever, they depend upon what is the crime is. So a country lo ina ante kada, you know, they have to follow the rules and regulations. But if you leave the United States, you know, because you are on the temporary visa anyway, H1B student visa or anything like that, there's nothing the US government can do it while you are in India and you're not taking care of whatever your judgments or the cases are pending, you know.
Okay.
So they deal few cases, countries together, like a money laundering, those kind of the things, you know. But a lot of the cases, if you're not in the United States, even the crime is done in the United States, no action can be taken care if you leave the country.
ఓకే. అండ్ ఫైనలీ ఆపర్చునిటీస్ విమెన్కి ఎట్లా ఉంటాయి, పర్టిక్యులర్గా ఈ లా అండ్ జస్టిస్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్కి వచ్చేసరికి, అండ్ ప్రాక్టీస్ చేసే లాయర్స్ విమెన్ పర్సంటేజ్ ఎంతవరకు ఉంటుంది?
I mean, that is women practice a lot. It's closer to 40%, you know. But it's not about how many men and women practice, but when it comes to the next level, right, you know, like more like a partnership level, more into the sitting on the bench and those kind of the opportunities, you still see a lot of inequality with the men and women, you know. And not just the men and women in America, the color is huge difference too, you know, which country you came from, or what kind of the skin color also matters, most of it, you know. But you do see a lot of difference when it comes to the women, and women in color is less percentage in general, you know.
ఓకే.
So, but practice level, a lot of law students and in all those things, it's almost the same percentage, you know. But in growing to the ladder into the next level is what we are missing, and the percentage is very low in the women.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ మాతో జాయిన్ అయ్యారు, అండ్
Thank you.
డీటెయిల్స్ అన్నీ చెప్పారు, ఎలాంటి ప్రికాషన్స్ తీసుకోవాలి యుఎస్కి వచ్చిన తర్వాత అనేది కూడా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్.
Thank you.
సో ఇది ఇమిగ్రేషన్ విషయంలో కానీ, లేకపోతే డిపెండెంట్ వీసా పైన వెళ్ళే వాళ్ళు కానీ తీసుకోవాల్సిన ప్రికాషన్స్, అదేవిధంగా అక్కడ చట్టాల్ని గౌరవించడం అనేది ఇంపార్టెంట్ మ్యాటర్ అని చెప్తున్నారు మధురిమ. థ్యాంక్ యూ.